Thanks for joining Solicited, a podcast hosted by me, Caitlin,
and me, Nicole,
where we talk about all things related to life in our 30s.
Let me tell you the 30-something thing I did just today. I had an eye doctor appointment. The appointment went great. Where things began to unravel was at the end of the appointment where you have to pay and they ask you for your insurance and all of that. And I wanted new glasses this year because I didn't get any last year. So I'm like 2 years behind. And I always buy like a year worth of contacts, right? So I pick my glasses, I go over to the register. I have an FSA. So I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I'm feeling rich going into this because I'm just going to fucking reimburse it on my FSA. Another way I know I'm in my 30s. And she fucking says to me, so first of all, I make her run all the scenarios. I'm like, what's the best bang for my buck here? All right. I make her run all the scenarios. Does it make more sense for my insurance to pay for the glasses or the contacts? What am I looking at? And then we come up with a game plan. And then she tells me that I owe $600, bro. That's with fucking insurance. And I was like, right then and there, I was like, take the glasses off. I don't need them. And it's like, I'll be fine. So that's the first thing I did. I feel like being in your 30s, you gain that confidence. You're like, I will not pay for this if I don't want to, if this is a fucking ripoff. So no shame. I was like, take the glasses off. I don't want them. And then she reads me the fucking balance and it was still like $400 fucking dollars. And I was like, just holding my credit card, like, how is this so expensive? And so I say to her just really innocently, and I was ready to pay because I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do? I need these contacts. It is what it is. I cut my losses.
You gotta see.
I got to see. Your girl's got to see. I know who I am. If I don't do it now, they're going to run out. It's going to be a whole thing. Just get the year supply. But I'm struggling. And I just say to her, really just kind of innocently, matter of fact, of I feel like it wasn't this much last year. And she fucking leans in. All right. She leans in. Then maybe this is also how I know I'm 30. People are giving me they trust me more now, right? Right? They're gonna fucking share the secrets, the secret recipes. And she's like, I shouldn't be telling you this. I could get in trouble, which I love. And she's like, most people, they don't buy their contacts here. They take their prescription and they buy it on 1-800-CONTACTS. And I was like, what? And then she fucking proceeds to look up on 1-800-CONTACTS website to make sure they have the contacts that I wear. And she did a price comparison. She's like, oh yeah, they'll sell you a box for $107. We'll sell it to you for $256. And I was like, absolutely not. I said, that's fine. I said, thank you. I said, better yet, I'll buy the glasses. That cost me $90. And now I'm going to take my ass to 1-800-CONTACTS and get a deal because I'm fucking old. So that's what happened to me today. No shame. No fucking shame.
Oh my Lanta. Wow. Okay. This is insane to me, just the cost of everything and how obviously the price of everything is going up. It's the world we live in. I feel sick to my stomach even just thinking about spending $600 on
anything.
And anything, yeah, really. That's, me. If it ain't got a coupon, I'm waiting.
Yeah.
That's not always true, but you know what I mean. Wow. I don't have much more to say than that except for wow. And I paid for LASIK in 2022.
I bet both eyes was $600.
Oh, yeah, it was more than that. But I thought about it in the long run for myself is that I would be saving myself money from glasses, from the contacts, from the eye drops, from all of those different things. So I told myself it's going to be worth it. And it has been so far. I do think my vision's changed a little bit since having a baby, but it's a different conversation for a different day. But the cost of, you got to, weigh out the pros and cons of all of that. Have you considered LASIK? Or you're not a candidate?
every year I go in and I say, can I get LASIK? And then like a year or two ago, he was like, if you, because, generally they've said if you need to have a stable prescription for a year. I don't ever have a stable prescription. Every year my eyes change. So I'm just like, I'm never getting it. And then a couple years ago, the doctor was like, well, if you've had a stable prescription for like 6 months, I think we could recommend it. Long story short, I can't get into why that didn't happen. And then today, I said the same thing. I was like, well, my dream is to get LASIK, but I guess I never will. And she's like, no, you could. She goes, just know that like you will still probably need glasses or contacts at some point. Like it will only do so much for your eyes, right? Like if your eyes keep changing,
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe someday I will, but I don't
it's
know.
not cheap.
No.
I think it's worth it. But my doctor always told me that it was going to probably get me a good 10 years before I'd need like readers or like a low prescription again. And I already feel like the amount of screen time that people use and watching TV and being in front of computers and on phones, like that has a big impact. That plays a big impact. So anyway.
Yeah, it does. But for our listeners, if you take anything away from my 30-something story, it's don't be afraid to put things back on the shelf if you don't like the bill. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's like really frowned upon of being like, oh, no, never mind. I don't want that. That's $30. It's like, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. If you don't, if it's not worth $30 to you, then why pay it?
I mean, don't do that at a restaurant, but
minus a restaurant. Like that's
yes.
Uncool. That's dining and dashing. But like everywhere else, I'm like,
no, I think that's solid. Good, solid advice here, Nicole. And your story leads right into what we're going to talk about today of the need to keep up with the Joneses and just keep up with your neighbors and your peers and the cost that it costs to do that. It's always, I've realized it's always been there in every generation. There's always been the need to keep up with the Joneses. But in 2024, it is digitalized, it's technology, it's 24/7 in your face, marketing, affiliate links, social media. It's just bam, 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 anywhere, everywhere you go. And so I think it's pretty tough to not feel the urge to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, I think with the way that social media is just like an everyday occurrence in most people's lives, at least young people's lives, I think it has totally put everybody in a pressure cooker because social media creates this like perfect snapshot of somebody and all the things that they have. And it just can't be all true. It's a snapshot, but we don't think about that. It doesn't matter in the moment, right? You just see all of these like shiny pictures. And I definitely think it contributes to people feeling like they're behind when they're probably not.
Yeah, no, it's 100% a highlight reel is social media. People are posting about their new car and their new homes and their new furniture in their homes and anything new that they get. New purses, new handbags, depending on what you're into. Not only that, when people have a starter home and then they want to move into like a bigger and better home, there's that need to always have that what's next. Think about iPhones, the Apple Watches, the AirPods, like they can constantly come up with a new thing
yeah.
for you to be like, oh, my old ones aren't good enough. Like, let me get the next best thing. And
that's so true.
I mean, Apple's a pro at it. So many people want the next iPhone.
That's so true. I hadn't thought like it's both social media, but I guess I really hadn't thought too. It's like definitely technology as well. The way in which technology comes and goes so fast. And if you don't get the newest thing, it's like people really pride themselves on having the newest thing and whatever. But the thing that you said about the house really resonates. Because Nick and I are looking and I catch myself being like, oh, but I want this house. What if we could afford $50,000 more, right? But then I have to like find myself, I have to like consciously check myself and be like, but why do you even want that? Like, you don't even value that, right? Like, you want to still be able to like take vacations and do these other things. Like, you don't want a house that costs more money. But there is this, like, you hear your friends are moving, or like, we had friends upgrade their house like in the last year, and they live in like this big, right? So it's like, you see it happening around you and you're like, but I want it. I feel behind. And it's like, maybe you're not behind. Maybe you just have a different set of values.
That's very, very true. I especially going on with the housing realm. Then you talk about decorating a home, and people with the affiliate links, that it's so easy for people to make commission and money off of Amazon, and by sharing their links and getting money, it's in your face on social media 24/7. I can't even tell you, even personal people that I know that are sharing affiliate links, and it makes you wonder, from skincare to vegetable choppers to different things, like thinking it's going to give you more time back in your life, or it's going to make things 10 times better. It's wild to me how much pressure there is from social media. And it is 3,000,000% the highlight reel. Social media just really shows all the good that people are sharing, but what they don't always show is two hardworking people combining incomes, coupon clipping. I pay you guys, like, this has to do with what you value, obviously, more than anything. I pay no more than $20 to get my hair cut, but I know so many people that spend hundreds of dollars to do that. If that's what works for you, that's great. That's not how I choose to spend my money. And same thing with meals and like vacations and Louis Vuitton bags and fancy heels. Like, that's not my vibe. Like, that's not my thing. There are people that value those things, and obviously that's where consumerism comes into play even more. And I just really think that this influencer culture has taken a big hit on social media to make you feel like what you're doing every single day is not good enough, and that you can have all of these things, or that I'm not working hard enough, that I could be doing the same thing and get rich quick. Like, I know we were talking about, is that, oh, you can have it too. This is all you have to do. But then you throw your heart and soul into this thing to make what, $1,000 more?
Yeah, yeah, it's like the influencing and all the stuff that you see. It's like there's the illusion out there that money is just a click away, and you just, if you're not making all of this money using a social media or using tech, then you just haven't found it yet, and it's like so accessible for everybody. And I don't think that is true. I just don't think that that is true. I think the people that wake up and make millions of dollars on the internet are skillful and probably an anomaly. But there's this illusion that it's right at your fingertips, and therefore if you don't have it, then you're behind. And I have a hard time digesting that.
I mean, obviously we weren't alive in the 1950s and all that, but thinking about everything that I know from obviously history, it was different. You buy your home, you live in your home. People didn't do all these like extravagant vacations, and they flaunted their money somewhat, in the clothing that they maybe wore or the car that they drove. But now it is so flaunted in today's culture, whether you have money or not. That is, I think, the key here is that, go ahead.
I was going to say
the key.
Yeah, and I think that brings me to like luxury feels so accessible, and therefore people that actually maybe don't have the money to buy luxury items do, because it's so accessible, and you actually don't need money. You need a credit card. And so it's like, also it goes back to your statement about snapshots, right? It's like everything is so accessible. There's so much pressure to have the bags, the shoes, the this, the that. And it's not like back in the day where you have to go into this ritzy department store and like, right? Like, you just fucking buy it online, or like they have fucking Louis Vuitton at outlet malls, right? So it's just like so fucking accessible. And it just tells everybody like, you can have this, and don't you want this? And, and it's somewhat affordable, right? Like, it's not $1 million, but it's probably like a couple thousand, right? To buy like a nice bag. And it's like, it's just so accessible.
I think that that's part of where the people are getting their self-worth from, how they represent themselves and how they carry themselves, and feeling the need to compare to other people. And I think that that's another part that we're missing here, is that we're comparing ourselves to people on the internet. We're comparing ourselves to people who are one in a million and like hit a good spot and we're able to be very successful from that. And I'm not discrediting the people that grind and work hard and like have really earned every cent of their income of whatever it is, but comparing ourselves to other people as we're in this keeping up with the Joneses type vibe, like what your neighbor has, they might have been saving up for 2 years in order to do it, whereas you don't know that, you don't know the details.
That's so true. We also don't live in a very like financially transparent culture, right? Like it's still pretty frowned upon to talk about money like in a social or public setting. And so yeah, you're right. Like you have no idea. Like that could be all debt, right? People can
Yep.
flaunt around with things with debt and you could be like, really beating yourself up about it. But the truth is they can't afford it either. Or they could have been saving for a fucking decade to take that vacation and they didn't tell you that because it's none of your fucking business, right? But
Yeah,
if we were more transparent and we talked about these things, I think it would break down some of those like perceptions.
for sure. And I think the other factor of this is that we don't know what people's credit card bills look like and their debt. The average family income in 1955 was $4,200, according to the United States Census Bureau. Like,
That's crazy.
and that, I mean, that is insane. So then in the 1950s to today's dollars, that's equivalent to $42,000.
Can you
And
imagine living on 42, like even with a family, right? Because I'm just assuming that like that's mostly families. Can you imagine like, and I know people do it, right? There are people that are in poverty that actually live on less than this, but can you imagine, Caitlin, living a family of four on $42,000 a year and owning a home and cars and all of that?
so here's some transparency for you all. I started teaching in 2012. My starting salary was $39,000 as a single person. Mind you, I didn't have any student loans. Thank God. Like I saved up enough money, put myself through school, with support from my parents to some degree. Of moral of the story, I paid for myself for everything else, housing, food, car insurance, all the things. So I started out at $39,000, right? I could not afford to buy a home. I could not afford to do any of that. Like $39,000, not even counting what Uncle Sam takes out of that. Like it's barely surviving. That's what that is. As a single person, I couldn't have supported a family even on that.
Yeah.
And it didn't get much better, people. I taught for 10 years and the income did not increase. And this is this makes me sick. This is a whole nother topic again for another podcast, but credit card debt is real. And thankfully, the one time I started to go that way because I wanted to live a little bougie on a trip, real talk, I was thankful that I was able to pay it off like pretty quickly.
Well, sometimes it can be hard not to, right? Like I have a little bit of credit card debt and like actively working to pay it down and I make like good money, right? And it's like, it happens. But I also think like just being transparent about it can be really helpful. It's like, there's kind of no shame in the game. It's like, it happens. I think where I get frustrated is I'm like, don't make it something like, don't tell me, like, don't give me a false perception, right? If you've got a little debt, that's fine. Shit happens.
Yeah.
But don't then say like, oh, but look at me. I'm out here living my life, etc., and trying to,
Yeah.
Whatever. It's
Yeah. The average American household this was data from 2022 in the USA Today, says that it's typical that they have $8,000 in credit card debt. So I feel like it has to be way more than that, but who knows?
I know that seems low to me. That seems low to me.
I mean, so going back to, like, for me, the keeping up with the Joneses is hard in the family setting now for me. Seeing
Mm.
people going, couples like traveling somewhere epic or going on extravagant date nights or having that luxury to do those things is very hard. As well as like the baby comparisons for me, it's not just like baby milestones, like my kid's crawling, your kids, our kids are the same age, and like that type of thing. But it's what you do with and for your child. So Valentine's Day, everybody was sharing all these little things that they did for their kid. And I'm like, cool. I got my kid a balloon from Publix that was like $3 because I didn't want to go to the Dollar Tree to get a balloon. And it made me feel like what I was doing was not enough. You know, it makes you feel like, I know you're looking at me like I'm crazy because you obviously don't have a child
Well, I'm
right
like,
now.
well, no. I'm like, just remind everybody how old your baby was in February. Like 5
Oh,
months old,
yes. Yeah.
6 months old.
Yeah, 6 months.
So it's not
So
like you're depriving your 3-year-old of something who like has a
exactly.
concept.
Like
It's
a
like a
Valentine. Exactly.
baby.
And that's what I had to remind myself of is like, why am I doing this? Am I doing it for show? Am I doing it for myself? Am I doing it? Is it going to help me with my self-worth? And then I just reminded myself that I'm going to be doing this for the next several decades of my life, like celebrating the holidays with my child, doing things, Easter baskets, this, that, and the other. Like, did I make Milo an Easter basket? Yes. Did my mom buy me the basket? Yes. Like, I want to do all these things, but it's the showiness of, oh, this is what I did and la 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 la. And it's hard not to feel like you're not doing enough or that did you do enough and you question it. I know a lot of my friends were like, oh man, like I had this many presents for my kid under the Christmas tree. That does not matter, people. Like, I don't want to set that precedence in my house.
I remember feeling this way a little bit too when we were planning our wedding, right? There's like a lot of pressure. Yeah, it happens.
And that is, planning a wedding is 3,000,000% keeping up with the Joneses, smack dab in your face. It's like, oh, do we need the cocktail napkins that are imprinted with our names and this and that?
No, you don't.
No. Did I need an RSVP card to come back to me in the mail that's going to just go in the trash? No, I did it digitally because I didn't want to waste money on stupid things. So, it's just, man, it is modern version of consumerism. It's just so efficient because it's so in your face. And
yeah.
I think the other aspect of this that we're forgetting to talk about even more, I know we touched on it, is that debt has just become very normalized in American culture. And people are living with it and continuing to have what they want, but are they truly happy is what I want to know, people, because
I think
it's
that's
all
the
highlight.
question. That's the question to ask. It's not about like whether or not you have a little debt, whatever, but it's like, is the thing that you have now in return for that debt, is that making you happy? Or is like, what was the thinking behind? And I think we're all guilty of this, of like, this will make me feel good about myself. This will make me feel successful. This will make me feel like worthy and fulfilled if I just have this thing to show for it. Right. But I think that that's a losing game.
Yeah. And the other thing that you were just talking about, it's a losing game, but it's also not just on social media. It's on television, like the shows that we're watching, your friends that you hang out with. If I'm out to dinner with you and I see you have a cool pair of earrings on, you're like, oh, they were a little bit of a splurge. You're like, oh, well, I deserve a little bit of a splurge.
Mm-hmm.
You like have to convince yourself that you want that or need that thing too.
Yeah, the other thing that made me think of when you said it's on TV too is like we were watching, like everything is misrepresented on TV. We were watching just like a fucking drama the other day. And this character is a police officer, okay? But her home is beautiful, renovated, mid-century in Los Angeles. I'm like, no, a police officer in Los Angeles does not have this fucking beautiful ass house unless it was handed down 4 generations ago, okay? And so it's just like it's all misrepresented everywhere, right? So it's like I think even then you can see and you could be like, this is what they're trying to represent middle class. That's just not what middle class looks like.
And oh, I mean, I grew up in a middle class family in childhood, and then I feel like I was a poor single woman for so long, and now I feel like no matter well, like no, I feel like we're middle class still, but at the same time, I also do feel like in some degree, people probably look at me and are like, "Oh, she's a stay-at-home mom. I wish I could stay home." And like I think about that kind of stuff because I get that. That's a whole keeping up with the Joneses type thing of wanting something that maybe is not attainable for you and your family in a financial way or a physical way or a proximity. Like there's so many factors to this.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because I feel that way a little bit too with like Nick and I looking for a house. I almost like don't even want to tell people because we own some other stuff, but that doesn't mean that we're doing anything right, like or better. It just means that we bought houses. We're risky. We were like willing to take a risk and we have great interest rates. Like that's literally all it means is like I was willing to take a risk. It could have gone terribly wrong. It could still go terribly wrong. I could like be upside down in this house and owe like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And it doesn't mean that we are making a ton of money or that we are doing anything more right than anybody else. Our timing was really fucking good. And Nick is a veteran, so we have all sorts of benefits that other people don't have. 100%. And so like if you don't know that about us, you're like, how are they doing it? And it's like, A, it's a struggle. B, we don't make any money doing this. This is a long-term plan. C, we got lucky. And D, we have entitlements that not everybody has, right? So it's like you need to break it down for people. Otherwise, I just feel like this perpetuates this like, well, they did it, I should be able to do it. And it's like, ask for the whole story. Ask for the whole story and ask even what that means that we're doing it. What does that mean that we're doing it? Right? Like,
yeah. This is also why I coupon like and use coupons to get my hair cut and do things like this because I'm not willing to spend money on things that are not important to me. And I'd rather have a nice meal, a vacation, a nice house, like different things like that. And us too, we are constantly always looking at houses because we have a growing family. And
nothing will make you feel less successful than looking at the housing market and what you can't fucking afford.
Yes. Ain't that the freaking truth? I cannot. But that's what I'm saying is like, it's almost like it's a, like, it's almost like you're like, you can barely reach it and you want to touch it and you want to grab it so bad. But then it's like,
or you're like, oh, I can have this. And then they tell you for how much you can have it. And you're like, wait, that's how much I have to pay every month for 30 years?
Put it back.
No, put it back. Yeah, do Nicole at the eye doctor. Put it back. No, yes. I don't want this one.
No.
Yeah, it's just insane.
And I mean, something that Mike and I keep talking about too is that we do not want to be
house poor.
Like, we don't want to be house poor. Like, you have to always save for those emergencies and just living life. Like, I don't want to live a hard 10 years and pinch pennies and do different things just because we bought a more expensive house. And obviously, like, we're not in that. We always are looking, but it just hasn't happened for us and the timing hasn't been right.
No, and that so goes back to like where I have to like talk myself off a ledge and be like, you do not want this. Like, or here's the thing, you can have this, but here's the trade-off, right? Like, is that what you're willing to give up? And like the answer is no. For me, it's not. And I just have to like remind myself, no. And our friends that can do that, it's similar to like what I was just saying. Our friends that can afford that and double that, it's like, yes, because they also have had years of experience doing other things, right? Like they also have a different story to tell. And it's not because they're doing more things right than us. It's just different.
I also wonder how much, I wonder how much people's families help and like,
it's a good question.
And how much families help, or maybe it's generational wealth that is being passed down. I mean, that hasn't been our luck whatsoever. But that always goes through my mind of like, was this
Yes.
handed to you? Did you have support? Did you go in on this? Was it all of the money you received from your wedding that you just dumped into a house? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and here I'm going to share a story with you, but before I do, I also think that like I feel like, and I remember telling you that my dad essentially paid for my wedding, and I felt so guilty saying that to you because I knew that that was not your situation. And so I also wonder how much of this does happen, but like people don't say it because it feels like you're coming across snotty. It's like, no, y'all, it's not snotty. Like help reality check me to like what the fuck is going on in this economy. But I have a friend, and she and her husband were getting ready to move, and she was a social worker like me. Her husband did some other stuff. I mean, we probably made comparable dual salary household incomes. And she told me, so they were getting ready to move out of state, and she showed me the house that they bought. This house was almost $1 million. Okay. She also was my age. All right. So it's not like she had 20 years,
20
you
years
know,
on you.
20 years on me. She'd been saving, pinching these pennies, right? No, she was my age. And she showed me this house. And I was like, wow, I mean, the house is great. What? And she looked at me and she goes, I feel like we have an obligation as millennials, as humans, whatever, to be honest with each other. We could not have afforded this house if both of our parents did not give us like $30,000 to put a down payment. And they happened to have a house that they were selling. So they had some change, like some down payment for that. But she was like, if they didn't give us like almost $60,000, they would not have been able to do this. And I was like so relieved because I'm sitting here going, this bitch can afford $1 million house. What? How?
You're like,
right?
what am I doing wrong?
What am I doing wrong? Exactly.
Yeah.
And then she just like literally was like, no, like don't even like, and I didn't even say that, but she just like felt the obligation to be like, don't get it twisted. Like we are not doing anything better than anybody. Our parents fucking helped us. And thank God that they did. And I was like, that's really fucking cool that you were like, that she was willing to share that.
No, and honestly, that just sharing, being that vulnerable with somebody and sharing that is, I think, important in not comparing yourself to other people, because it's okay to ask for help and get help with all these different things, but it shows you that it is attainable with help if you do want that, or you could figure out a way to do it, or that you're doing okay in what realm, what little box that you are in right now. And that's the epiphany that I'm having with your story. And
Yeah.
now imagine this though. They just spent a million bajillion dollars on a home, but now they got to furnish it. So if they go on Instagram and they see all their people sharing brand new house decor, the people that change their decor like every couple of years, I don't know how they do it, because
Wow.
our couch was stupid expensive. Our furniture, we were trying to buy furniture that was long enough for my husband's freaking 80 something inch TV. Like that was longer than it. Things are expensive. It's expensive.
Furniture is so expensive. Furniture is so expensive. Yeah, I agree with you. It's just like, and then also like all the things that come, right? Like, I'm not even going to get into it. But yeah, it's like, whew.
We were just talking about this actually this week. I was talking with my dad about it because he just built a playground set for my nephew and at my sister's new house. My sister just bought a house, and my dad had built a playground for us in my childhood home. And that baby was like durable. That's the other thing we're not talking about in this Keeping Up with the Joneses, is that things are not built the same as they were 20, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely different. Things are being built to like break on you, so you have to upgrade
buy
and
new.
get new things. So
It's so true. I hadn't thought about that too, of like the disposable culture that we're in.
Yeah. And even with the iPhones though, this is why Apple's doing something right. They make your phones like slow down and go slower and not work as great, forcing you to want to upgrade or have to upgrade. So
What were you going to say about the jungle gym?
that was what the one that my dad built us when I was a child. You played on that thing a million times probably at our old street, our old house. The one that he just built, it's not the same. It's just not same kind of quality. My dad said it'll probably last a couple years and boom, boom, boom. But like the neighbors across the canal that my sister lives behind, they have their old swing set. Their kids are my age. you know, in their 30s, and they turned it into a plant holders. So it's holding plants up, but strong, sturdy, good, just what the swing set was, and they turned it into a plant holder. So my point
Yeah.
here with that is just things are being built differently, and that is another part of the keeping up with the Joneses, is that keeping up with your neighbors, looking, feeling that need to upgrade, get the next great, latest and greatest. And man, it's just everywhere.
Yeah, I literally have to like maybe check Instagram like once a day because it's all it fucking is reasons why
Yeah.
you're not good enough. And I'm just like, and even still, it's like I really only stay on because I follow all these dog accounts and some funny shit. But like, you know what I mean? Then every now and then something gets in there and I'm like, oh my fucking goodness. But
Yes.
it really doesn't bring me anything except a couple laughs now and then.
Yeah. It's hard, and I think that that has probably, social media and the need to keep up with the Joneses has played a big impact on the rise in our mental health in America right now too, and the depression, anxiety, stress, um, not just financially, but emotionally and physically, and being behind screens and not being active and not getting outside. And there's, I just think that there's so much more at play here that people need to be talking about, and realizing that it stems from the hustle social media culture and wanting what the person next to you has.
Yeah. So, Caitlin, what would you say like the main takeaway for you is here?
I think the main takeaway here for me is do whatever makes you happy. If you want to buy something for yourself and it costs a lot of money, ask yourself, is it going to put you in debt? Is it good? If it is it going to be okay? Or are you doing this for the wrong reasons? I think that that is something that you need to ask yourself. Why? Why are you doing this? Why do you want this? Is it because Billy Bob Sally down the street have that? Is it because you feel the need to want this? I just, I think that people don't reflect enough on the why behind why they're doing something or why they're wanting something. And it's like we talked about previously, is that your clicks and purchases from Amazon, those bricks add up. Nicole, what do you think the takeaway is from, you know, our podcast and this keeping up with the Joneses fad that's been happening for decades?
I think for me the takeaway is remind yourself that if you never have you almost never have the full story, and you definitely never have the full story when it's social media driven. So like when you're like, for me, when I'm starting to feel like the green envy giant or whatever the fuck that, you know what I'm talking about, whenever I start to feel that like jealousy monster, it's just like you don't even know the whole story, and like move on. So for me, that has been really helpful. I think the other takeaway for me is like, and I even catch myself doing this, right? Of like, I catch myself not being transparent about like money and income and spending and debt. And it's like, I think for me, the takeaway is push yourself in safe places. Please don't run around and share with people your income and your debt and all this fucking personal business. But with safe people, and especially with your friends, it's like, I think to really push ourselves to have more transparent conversations about like what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I will say the friends that I can talk to like black and white about money, that like well, just fucking tell me. I ask them how much do you make. They just fucking tell me the answer. And I will in return. It's like, those are the people that I can trust to like reality check me and tell me what the deal is, right? And we have like super transparent conversations about like, I'm broke as hell because I'm doing X. And it's like, oh, okay, like that's such a relief. I'm broke as hell too because I'm doing Y. It's okay to be fucking broke if you're working on your goals, right? And so I just think that to push yourself and push your relationships towards transparency, because I feel like, I feel great when I have those conversations. I feel like a relief, a stress has been like lifted. So those would be my two takeaways.
I think you nailed it when you said, talking about the transparency, and that social media still is just, you really just can't compare yourself. You don't know the full story. That is the truest thing we've said tonight, is you don't know people's circumstances.
You don't. And you can't look for transparency in social media. You will never find it. And I think so that's why you have to cultivate relationships where you can be like, do you got a financial planner? Or like literally my friend referred me, right? And now I have a financial planner. Now we talk about it. Every time I see her, I'm like, how you doing with Sean? And we have a whole conversation. So it's like, really push yourself. It's like, you're not going to find that anywhere in the social realm, digital world. You need to cultivate it in your personal relationships with people you trust. And I think when you do that, you feel way more settled.
Exactly. And another thing just to touch on that is, I was having this conversation with one of my girlfriends, and she was telling me that she unfollowed all of the big influencers from social media just so that it wasn't popping up on her feed. And
so
like,
smart.
it was causing her so much anxiety because she's like, well, wait, I need this, or I want this. And it's so hard because I do get value from some of these people that I follow because they have young kids and they share different things and recipes and things that I will use. But then when they share their affiliate links and their codes and a sale, it's like, oh, it's 25% off. I feel like I need to go get this because I really like this product, and let me just go buy more of it. It's the consumerism aspect of it. It's not maintainable. It's really not maintainable when you have that popping up on your social media every single day and feeling like you have to buy in.
I also think, and I think maybe we can leave it here, is like, it's also probably anti your financial goals. Because if you're just fucking clicking all these affiliate links and buying shit off social, like, you're probably not, like, that is money that could probably be better spent elsewhere, like towards a goal, as opposed to just feeling like you're on the hamster wheel, like trying to keep up. It's like, put that money in a fucking IRA, right? Or like something else, and stop clicking links. It's like, that is not where your goals probably are, right?
Yeah. One last thing, do you feel that way when you drive by your coffee shop? Because I'm wondering about that. Miss Bricks dropping bricks over here.
Listen, I feel that way about the coffee shop owners because they're badasses, and they opened this coffee shop when they were in like their fucking 20s, and they've expanded and they do all this fucking cool shit. So I felt that way about them as business owners. I was like, how did they do it? And because I just respect that, right? I'm like, I will give you my $7. I'll do it. I don't care.
And that could be another part, is just wondering, ask these questions to people around you. How are they doing this? Why are they doing this? And you're exactly right. Find a little core group of people, your besties, or maybe here's the other thing I was thinking is, find someone you aspire to be like, or maybe in the next generation up, and they've created that wealth or created something that you want in the future, and ask them how they attained it.
How they did it.
Yeah. Well,
don't be afraid to ask. Well, we hope that if nothing else, you come away with this episode with a little solidarity. We're here in it with you. But otherwise, like, subscribe, follow, share us where it's listed the podcast at Instagram.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.